Today, we're talking about some lures and presentations for the month of May that you need to be using. And I know there are plenty of videos all across YouTube talking about the best baits for the month of May. However, you won't see these in any of those videos because if I didn't make this, you'd probably never even consider any of these, which is a shame because they work so well. What are they? Well, stick around. We're going to talk all about it.
Got him! I got him! That's a good one. That's a nice one. That is a nice one. That is a tank. That is a tank. Here we go. I'm going to try to boat flip this big boy.
Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and as I said in the opening, today we're talking all about baits and presentations that if I hadn't made this video, you wouldn't even consider. They're often overlooked, if not outright ignored. Now, I've made videos about some of these presentations before, but one in particular is new to me. I just started using it, and I'm telling you what, it is every bit as good as advertised. I got to give a shout out to my buddy Hank Rogers over at Geek for putting me on this particular presentation. It works as good as he said it does. But before we get started, if you like bass fishing content that tries to be inclusive, whether you're fishing from a boat or whether you fish from the bank, and always thinking about budget because not everyone's got a lot of money to spend on bass fishing gear, then this is the channel for you. Click that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, give this video a like. I would really, really appreciate it. So, what cockamamie nonsense is Lowbrow talking about this time? Well, there's all kinds of videos across YouTube talking about the best baits for May. But I want to talk about some ones you've not thought about before, ones that you maybe never even heard of before. But the good thing about these is they are great under so many different conditions. And we're going to be talking about all parts of the water column. Bottom bouncing techniques, the middle for suspended bass, and even top water. So you're going to have all the bases covered, and these are so simple to do. But, you know, let's go ahead and dive right into it. What's going to be the first thing? Well, we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to start talking about this guy right here. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you already know what this is. This is a Mojo rig, or in my area, we call this a baby Carolina or a Carolina light. It is exactly what it looks like. It's a type of Carolina rig, but rather than doing it with the brass weight and the beads and the swivels and everything, it's just a regular old quarter-ounce bullet weight, and it's got a bobber stop on top and a bobber stop on the bottom. And that gives you so much versatility. I've got a creature bait rigged on here. You can use a crawl. You can use any type of bait like that, although I would not recommend a Senko or a trick worm or anything like that, simply because the purpose of this is when you drag that bait across, whenever you cast it out there and you start fishing it, you drag that tip of that rod sideways, just very, very slowly sideways. You reel up the slack and you drag it slowly, slowly sideways. And what happens is as that weight comes across, this bait floats up in the water, and it kind of trails behind and then slowly falls down back to the bottom of the water. And bass love it. I mean, it's the same concept as a Carolina rig. Now, you do have to be careful with those. I always take the barbs off of the hooks on those, simply because you can easily gut hook a fish. And if you take the barbs off your hook, trust me, you're not going to miss fish. You are not going to have a bad hookup rate if you take the barbs off of it. But what it will allow you to do is, if you do accidentally gut hook a fish, you can easily reach in there and pull that hook out, put the fish back in the water, and have it swim about on its way, and it's going to be perfectly fine. So another great thing about that is because you can take the weight, you can slide it up and you can slide it down. You can adjust the length of that leader depending on the conditions, depending on the mood of the bass, depending on the cover and how you want to fish that particular lure. That's great versatility you just don't have with the normal Carolina rig. And you can even bring it all the way down to the top of the hook, and you can fish it just like you would an ordinary Texas rig. Fish it through thick brush, fish it through thick vegetation, and it's going to come through just fine. It's one of the best bottom bouncing techniques. It's one of the best bottom dragging techniques I can think of. You know, I like to use jigs. I like to use Texas rigs, but whenever I see a lot of other anglers on the bank and I see a lot of anglers in boats around me, well, I whip that out because I know nobody else is going to be fishing it, and I am catching some really nice fish on that. So next up, let's go a little higher in the water column. We've got some bass that are cruising. We've got some bass that are suspended. They're not feeding on the bottom, and they're not active enough to go after topwater. Well, it starts with this, right? This is a beetle spin, and we've all fished with these when we were kids growing up. They are amazing. They catch bluegill and other sunfish, they catch crappie, and they catch bass, simply because they're just a small minnow type of presentation. You've got that thumping, spinning small Colorado blade. It looks like a few minnows that have grouped up. What fish can resist that? But the thing that I'm interested in is that blade. I can take this blade off of here. It's clipped on, and you don't have to buy a beetle spin. They sell these by themselves. I think Arky sells just the blade with the clip, or you can get them off of small swim baits. You know, in the Walmart fishing aisle, you should see those Arky swim baits, or you can see those beetle swims. But the blade is the important part. I can take that off, and I can put it on a swim bait jig. This is a 1/8 ounce. This is my favorite preferred size. I like to go up to a 1/4 ounce sometimes if I'm fishing a little bit deeper. But I've just taken that beetle spin blade and I've clipped it on there. And I'm tying it right through there. That's going to be your line tie now. You don't want to tie it in your normal line tie because it won't work right. This will just get all gummed up and it won't function properly. Now these are amazing on tough days when those bass are being finicky, when they're not really much of a mood to bite. Like I said, they're kind of suspended, maybe relating to cover, maybe relating to structure, and you can just slowly swim this by them. And I do mean slowly. You do slow roll these, because if you fish them too fast, you will blow them out. That's why I fish these on a spinning combo. You probably could fish it on a bait caster, but I find that I do much better if I fish it on a medium or a medium light fishing outfit with a spinning rod and 10-pound braid to a 8-pound co-poly leader. That's what works best for me. But work with it, try what works best for you. And from the bank, these things are amazing. Not only will it allow you to locate fish, it'll allow you to catch fish. I've had days where I never took this off. I kept it tied on the entire day and caught fish after fish. And it will tell you what kind of fish are in the area. It will catch dinks all the way up to giants. If you're finding that you're getting a lot of different types of fish when you're catching them, different various sizes, you can upsize to a spinner bait and dial that in and maybe just focus on the larger fish. But it works so well, and it works in so many different conditions. It'll work whenever you've got some stain in the water. It'll work whenever you've got blue grid skies. It'll work when you have just a bit of wind. So under varying conditions, like I said, we want versatility. We're trying to keep things as simple as we can. But now we've got to move up top to the topwater section, because all across the country, the water has finally warmed up and topwater is very, very viable. And we're going to talk about a topwater bait that many of you may not even know existed. And that is this guy right here. Yes, it's a cotton cordell boy howdy. And I talk about the prop ones all the time, but that's not a prop one. That is a tail weighted boy howdy. You see how it's got that round weight on the back of it. And it works similarly to a popper, although it's not nearly as loud, it's not as brash, and it's not as intrusive. You give it some quick twitches, not strong twitches, but you give it some quick twitches, and it sits in the water. Because it's tail weighted, it sits in the water like that, and it bobs up and down in the water. And when you twitch it, that front comes over like that, and it spits. It goes spit, spit, spit. But if you twitch it harder and try to do successive twitches, and this is the cool thing about it, this is actually a good thing I like to do, is it'll actually go under the surface and twist around for a little bit before coming back up and bobbing. So you can give it a couple spits, it'll twist around a little bit under the surface and then come back. And that really, really excites the fish because it really goes a long way towards mimicking an injured bait fish. And I'm fishing this. This is my standard topwater rig. I've got 30-pound braid, and I've got it to a 17-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, I don't necessarily need the leader. I could use a monofilament leader. That itself will work great, but I have this one on a fluorocarbon leader, and it doesn't really affect the float because it's just not heavy enough. You know, a lot of times you hear that if you put a fluorocarbon leader on for a topwater, it will cause that bait to sink. It'll cause it to ruin the action. I haven't found that yet. Although sometimes if I do want a little bit more stretch and I do want a little bit more float, I will use a monofilament leader on my topwater. And that's just a 7-foot rod with a 7.3 to 1 reel. I want a little bit faster reel when I'm fishing my topwater. And again, great lure. It's something different from a popper. It's definitely something different from a walking bait. And it gives you a lot of versatility whenever it comes to fishing your favorite topwater lures. Now, finally, we're going to be talking about a bait I've never shown on this channel before, and that is this guy right here. And this is the goofiest looking thing you've ever seen. This is called a prank by Booyah, and it is exactly what it looks like. It's a popper with a bill on it. Now, you might think this is a gimmick, but it is definitely not a gimmick. And this is the bait that Hank turned me on to, Bass Geek. And if you're not watching his channel, why are you watching my channel and not watching Hank? Go over there and watch his channel. As a matter of fact, I'm going to link a video that he did in the description that introduced this to me. And he told me, whenever I said I had a prank coming, he said, at first, you're going to hate it because you're not going to be able to figure out how to work it. But the truth of the matter is it didn't take me long to figure out how to work these. And it's kind of crazy because if you pop it quickly, it'll just sink under the water. That's what that bill is for. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it's got a really hard kicking action, a really hard wobble under the water. So you can use that together, much like the Boy Howdy, how I like to do it. You give it a couple of good pops and you drag it under the water. It does like that, floats back up. You give it a couple more hard pops, or you can fish it very slowly. You can give it some twitches and just let it sit there, and then give it some twitches and then let it sit there, much like a traditional popper. But you can even fish it like a crankbait. So I use different retrieves all in one cast, and that really seems to activate those bass because it feels more natural. As a matter of fact, the last time I tied this on, I caught a really nice fish.
Got him. Ooh, he went after it. The Booyah prank. That's not a bad one, kids. You really... Ooh, I had you good. Come here. All right. Hank Rogers, buddy, Bass Geek. That one's for you, man. That one right there is for you. Got that dude on the old Booyah. Oh, you've been caught before. That's a nice fish. The Booyah crank, or Booyah prank rather, doing damage. See if we can't get you undid without hurting myself. Ugh. That one's there. Just got my thumb. Now you're in my thumb. You're not a bad fish. Let me see what we got here. Alright. Doing damage with the Booyah prank. Doing damage with the Booyah prank. Oops. No. Feisty boy. I was about to let you go, but I want to look at you first. Yeah, pound and 3/4. Between a pound and a half and a pound and 3/4. Beautiful, beautiful bass. Thank you so much. We appreciate you playing. Whoo, feisty. Let's go get another one.
So that prank does good work. It's not that hard to work with. You can work it like a slow popper, or you can work it like a crankbait, or you can work it somewhere in between. A couple of twitches, and then let it go under the surface, and then let it pop back up. And I tell you what, you will get some really amazing blow-ups. And I'm just fishing that on my standard topwater gear. The same thing that I fish pretty much everything else, whether I'm fishing a popper, whether I'm fishing a spook, whether I'm fishing a walking bait, whether I'm fishing a boy howdy, or even that Booyah prank. That standard topwater gear is what works great for me. I don't need to have 500 rods to do one thing when it works so well. But those are the baits that I'm using. I try to keep what I throw different from everybody else, simply because of how pressured the lake that I fish is. You can try something different. Maybe come up with something on your own. Don't be afraid to experiment. Experimentation is always good, because sometimes you come up with something that's amazing that nobody else is doing. Try these out. I'm telling you what, you are going to catch some nice fish. So there you have it. Some really good, unorthodox, and overlooked presentations that work well during the month of May. And the best part is that they are so versatile, that they cover so many different areas of the water column and so many different conditions. And when you're trying to maximize your time on the water, efficiency is always the best way to go. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.